Hello, hello, hello. No countdown tonight. Just going to jump right into it because I'm just like that. I'm running behind. How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully, you can hear me. I just turned on my mic. Forgot that I didn't have it on. But how's everyone doing tonight on Thursday? Y'all looking forward to the end of the weekend coming? Or the end of the week coming, which is the weekend? All right, all right. So tonight, all day today, I got up early. When I say early, like 4 a.m., got all my work done and everything relatively early for the most part. And I thought to myself, you know what? I got all day. I'm going to come up with a project for tonight's class. And then the phone started ringing and stuff like that. And every time I looked at the clock, it's getting later and later and later in the day. And I'm like, okay, hold on. We still haven't come up with tonight's class, and the hours are slipping away. And then I'm looking at everything, and I'm kind of figuring out what I want to talk about tonight. Last week was I thought was a really good class, good timing and things like that. And I thought, I want to kind of try to keep that rhythm going. I couldn't come up with anything for a class, but then I thought, with the Halloween or the holiday coming around the corner, holidays and stuff, Halloween being kind of, I think, the first one coming up, I thought, let's maybe a Halloween project will do. And so I started looking at things, and I started coming across images and things. I was looking at spider webs and spiders and ghosts and ghouls and monsters and all kinds of stuff. And a couple of 3D models, spider 3D models and stuff, I kind of caught my attention. I thought, that's pretty cool. I like the way that is, and that's easy to model. That's easy to draw out and model, and you can even use a vector to kind of get you started if you want to. That would be an easy shape to do. And then I started, spider web vectors, and I'm looking at those, and I'm like, oh, you know what? That's cool. And then for some reason, I don't know how I ended up on it, but I ended up on a page of bowls and trays. And there was one particular bowl that caught my eye, and it wasn't a spider bowl or nothing like that. I mean, I didn't see anything that said spiderweb bowl anywhere. I looked everywhere, but it caught my eye, and I thought, oh man, that's actually a nice looking bowl. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I took this bowl concept and the top of it, the rim, had a wide rim, and the rim was kind of a spider web, and then there was this 3D model spider on the web. That's actually a fairly easy project to model and create that would be fun for the holidays. And so all last minute is like all started coming up and everything, and it was like, great, this might work. And so I'm going to show you the images. These are not my images by any means or anything, but these are the images that inspired tonight's project, and then we're going to jump into the project. So let's see here. Let's see if I can pull up the let me see if I can share my screen. Where's everybody at? There y'all are. Let's see if I can share my screen, and then we'll get cranking here. And let's swap that around. Switch places with me. There we go. And so as I was looking and everything, as I was going through, and it's amazing how things, how things kind of come together and stuff. Oh, I know how, for some reason, I know how I ended up on bowls and all. I was looking at clocks, like clock faces and things like that. I thought, oh, maybe I could do a clock project tonight or something along those lines. And then I thought, you know what, I actually think that clock projects aren't as popular nowadays with, smartphones and things like that. You don't see a whole lot of people making a lot of clocks and stuff like that. So I thought, no, let's not do that. And so let me pop open this one. So this was one of the pictures I came across, and I looked at that and I thought, oh, you know what? That could be an easy model to make. That's easy enough. It's just a couple of shapes and everything. And then the second model that I came across was this one. And that's a model you can buy on cgtrader.com. And I thought, now I like thought to myself, I like the body style. Let me go maximum. Let me maximize this out. I thought to myself, I like the body style of that one. That would be easy. I mean, if you look at the shapes, very simple shapes would be very easy to model something like that, you know, from scratch. Some rectangles with little, you know, rounded on the end, you know, and then little shapes with some deep radiuses. Very easy to model. And I thought, you know what, that's a cool one. Okay. So now we're kind of, I'm looking at that one and I'm looking at this one here, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's doable. That's doable. And then I started looking at, from there, I started looking at spider webs, right? And I thought, all right, well, you know, let's maybe, you know, a spider web like that, or, you know, and what got me looking at spider webs, well, again, I was looking at clock faces, and I was looking at a shape, something like that, you know, thinking about how to make a clock, you know, kind of like this and everything. And it's amazing. And the whole reason I'm telling you this story, it's kind of amazing how things come together, and you know, you get inspiration from things that really just kind of drive things. And what really sent it home was there's a CAD CAM website that has some beautiful bowls and projects and stuff. And I saw a bowl that had kind of this bottom from it, and it was Albet's CAD CAM. And I thought, you know, that kind of looks like a spider web almost, you know, the way those fins are. I don't know if we're going to do those fins. I'm going to try. I was trying to think to myself, how would I model that? But then I saw this bowl from the same website, and it was a honeycomb bowl. And I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool if instead of a honeycomb, if it was a spider web and there was a 3D model of a spider, you know, right there on the, sitting on the web, you know, like right on the edge of the bowl or something. And all of that led to what we're going to make tonight from scratch. So let's get out of this. And let's come back here. And so hopefully you stick around with me. Now, this is a concept project. I know how to make a bowl, you know, like bowls and trays and stuff like that. But we're going to be modeling the spider web. We're going to be drawing and modeling the spider. So we're going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. I think we can do it in a fairly short period of time without running too long. But it's going to be a two-sided project. If I can figure out, right now the bottom side is just going to be kind of smooth with a flat bottom and everything. The bowl, let me get back to me here, the bowl. But if we'll play around a little bit, and if I can get the wave, that kind of spider web look to the bottom, you know, we'll do that. I honestly don't know. It's one of those things where you see something and go, shoot, how do you model that? You know, I'm like, I know how to make a wavy flag, right? You know, the vectors and everything. That would probably be just a bunch of peaks and everything, because it's going to be a 2-rail suite. And then it's going to be draped over the bowl. So it'll be an add. You add one shape to another. That gives it that, you know, it'll give it that roundness and stuff. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to do it, right? As far as, you know, I don't know what it's going to get me that valley look and stuff. So we're going to play around with that. But first, the spider web, the bowl, top of the bowl, and everything, the bowl, the main thing, it's going to be easy to do. I think it's going to be fairly easy to do. It's a few simple things, and we are going to see if we can go through it, see if we can get it done. And we're going to go from there. Now, of course, this is an Aspire project because we are modeling. I'm literally going to draw the vectors, or, you know, create vectors in different ways and create this, you know, from scratch. But so if you don't have Vector VCarve Pro, don't worry. or if you don't have Vectric Aspire and you have Desktop or Pro, don't worry. Whatever bowl we end up making, it'll be a two-sided project. I'm going to make the model available to everyone. Yay, fun. Okay, so stick around, because even if it was a one-sided project, just to see how models combine and stuff like that, and see how to think of the concepts and stuff, because, you know, making the bowl, it'd be very much just like, you know, we could do that, use the same methods to make spoons and other dishes and stuff like that. So stick around. Let's get into it. Enough rambling. We've already spent 10 minutes talking about this stuff. And let's see what we can accomplish. Now, this is the depth of the bowl is either going to be kind of a shallow dish type bowl, or it's going to be a deep bowl, depending on the capacity of your CNC machine. Right? You know, how much room you have to work with. Some have, you know, where their Z-axis will, you know, have some height. Some have some, you know, low heights. Some have some high heights and everything. The stock that I'm going to be kind of working off of, I'm going to say it's either going to be between 1.5 inches and 2 inches. I'm going to just kind of a 2-inch block, and that's what I'm going to be working off of. But even if it was 3/4 or 1 inch, go a little bit more than 3/4, because a 3/4 inch bowl isn't a bowl. It's more of a dish or a plate or a platter kind of thing, which is cool too. You could do a cool platter with a big rim with a spider web on it and all that stuff. Anyway, this is where I'm thinking kind of like for candy, to hold candy and stuff for Halloween. So go a little bit deeper, you know, but it's going to be the same concept. You're just, you know, the depth is going to be based on kind of what, you know, the material and our vectors and stuff that we draw. All right, that being said, let's go to the job setup. And again, I don't have anything, honestly, folks. This is off the top of the dome. I'm like Eminem, man. I'm in a rap battle right now with myself. We're going to make something from scratch. Off the dome. All right. Now, for this, I would like to have a decent size bowl, you know, for candy, because it's not going to be very deep. So I don't want it small. It's not going to be very deep and everything. So I want it bigger so it holds more candy and all. So let's go for right now. I think that I'm going to go, we'll change it up as we need and everything. But I'm going to go like 15-inch diameter kind of thing. So we're going to go 15 by 15, and it might end up being smaller. It could end up being bigger. It could, whatever the case may be. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, the shape is going to be kind of a rounded shape, you know, with a spider web. It's not going to be kind of a funky, like rough, rustic spider web with different points and all poking out, which would be a cool design for the bowl, you know, the rim being kind of like, you know, like an aged spider web, not a perfectly symmetrical one and all that. We'll see about getting into the shape and all, but for right now, I just want to kind of make a round bowl concept and all, because everything else, it's going to take time to kind of get things up. So I don't want to make it overcomplicated. I'd like us to be able to get through this and absorb it pretty easily. So 15 by 15 by 2 inch. We'll get it started. For this, I'm just going to reference off the material surface for right now. That's a lie. I'm going to reference off the machine bed because it's a two-sided project. So I'll want to reference off my machine bed, and most of the material is going to get milled away. So the machine bed is going to be the reference. And then, but I will work off the center for this project. And we're going to go with we're making models. So we're going to go with a very high resolution, but higher than a very high. So I'm going to click OK. I don't have the options right now. So I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to hold my shift key down and go right back into the job setup. And that's going to give me those 2 additional options. And let's go larger on the screen. I'm sorry. I thought I had the screen maximized. So by holding the shift key down and clicking on the job setup dimensions, job dimensions and origin icon, while holding the shift key down, that gives me these 2 additional options for extremely high and maximum. Now, there's no need for me to go maximum right now. I'll say this. I am going to go maximum after, because I'm going to be providing the model file for y'all to download, and I'm going to make it in the highest resolution that I could possibly get. But for the class and for streaming and all that stuff with rendering and everything, I'm just going to go extremely high for now. And we're going to settle with that and click OK. But I'm going to end up going back and changing that resolution so it's a higher resolution when I export it out as an STL to, you know, provide for you folks as a digital download. Okay. Man, that fruit punch is good. Okay. So let's get over here and let's hide this. All right. So this work area here is a 15 by 15. And let's start off with, I'm going to draw the vectors. We're going to, I'm going to make the bowl just to show you kind of like how not very difficult it is to model a bowl. I want to kind of create the vectors, and then from there we'll do some modifications because we need to get the spider web carved and all that stuff on there. So let's say, for instance, that on the bowl, I'm going to start off with a circle here, and I'm going to drag the outer rim out, and I'm just going to go 14 inches on the rim, and within that, it's going to have a fairly wide rim on there, because I'd like to have the spider web around here, and, you know, the spider's sitting over here on the web or something like that. And so the inside area is going to be a 8-inch diameter, and so that's going to give me that. And I could even go 9 inches, you know, for more capacity. Let's go 9. That'll give me 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That'll give me a decent size. It'll give me 3 inches. I think I'm at 3 inches here. Let's go. For some reason, the math isn't mathing in my head right now. 2.5 inches on each side, all the way around. So that'll be a decent size for a web. But again, right now, just going round. You know, I'm not doing any kind of funky edge or the spider web and all. But that could change. That could change. I mean, it could change. If you attempted something like that, you could make it any shape you want. But I think, you know, just for ease of use, we're going to kind of stay basic right now. All right. Now, if this were the bowl, imagine this being dished out, right? Right in the middle, being dished out. We have to have, there's some wall thickness, right? Because on the bottom's going to be dished too. It's going to be round. It's not going to be a square block or nothing like that. It's going to have a round shape to it as well. And so I want the lip. Imagine this. Let me bring myself back up real quick so you can see me and everything. The lip of the bowl, this rim going all the way around, is going to have a little bit of thickness to it. One, it's going to have thickness thick enough for the spider web, because the web is going to get carved. It's going to be 3D, right? And the spider, right? So the spider is going to have some height to it as well. So the spider on the web and everything is going to have some height. And all that wood's going to get milled away just for that to happen. You know what I mean? And so this, and then of course the bowl, that 9-inch bowl, there's going to be, you know, it's going to be rounded at the bottom. So I want this lip to go around. And so the picture that I showed you, that reference image that I showed you here, you see how now that bowl, probably looking, I can see a shadow there. It looks like the bowl just kind of domes down, and it's solid right here. And it just domes up. I thought it was a lip, but we're going to have a lip, a bit of a lip there. But that domes, it actually domes down into the bowl. And so it's more solid. But anyhow, we're going to have a lip. And if I decide that it would be more stable as a dome, we could do that too, or whatever the case may be. Or if it's going to have those waves like the spider web, then we're going to go, you know, we'll do what we can. All right. So the reason why I'm telling you that is on the side. Oh, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, on the job setup, let's go back into that job setup. it's a two-sided project. Almost forgot that. Now I'm going to be touching off on the machine bed for both sides, and starting in the center. And I'm going to flip. I like flipping mine front to back for me, so I'll flip along the y-axis, and let's go back in there and set that up. Okay. So anyway, as I was saying before I caught that, the reason why I was saying that is we need another vector offset from this, slightly wider, that's going to represent the thickness of the wall, going through the thickness of the wall of this bowl, right? You know how thick the bowl is and everything on that roundness. So I'm going to take and I'm actually going to hold the control and the shift key down. I've got this vector selected. I'm holding the control and the shift key down, and I'm going to grab this corner vector with my left mouse button pushed now, and then I'm going to pull out, and I'm going to drag a vector out of the control, makes a copy. The shift keeps it centered, and the left mouse button is what's grabbing that vector to pull it out. I'm just going to kind of go about like that. And if I wanted to, I didn't have to do that. I could have very much just selected this vector and went over to the offset tool. And on the offset tool, I could have said offset outward. And let's say that I wanted the wall to be 3/8 of an inch as an example, and click offset, which I was close. I was just a little off. And I could offset it that way as well too. I don't have to drag it with the mouse. I could use the tools, all that wonderful stuff, and you as well. All right, so I do want a 3/8 inch wall, so I'll use the one that's 3/8. There we go. And so that vector is going to represent the thickness of the wall, while this vector kind of represents where the opening is on the dish. That is almost all the vectors we need. We're going to be two more. Now, have you ever seen on the bottom of a dish where there's a ring on the bottom, kind of where it sits on the table? So that way it's not, it's just a small amount of surface contact. So that way if there's any unevenness, it doesn't wobble or anything like that. So it's kind of flat on the bottom. Our bowl is going to be flat on the bottom and everything, and it's going to kind of come to there's going to be a ring here. So I'm going to draw that vector in, and that ring is going to probably be about 5 inches in diameter. I think would be good. And then that ring that's going to happen, I'm going to make it hollow so it's not flat on the bottom. And so the ring itself, I'm going to kind of offset that one inward. Offset inward. And let's see what 3/8 looks like. That's good. We'll get 3/8 offset inward. Now, sharp corners was selected on that. It's round. It's circle. There's no sharp corners. It didn't hurt anything that it being selected, but it's not necessary. All right, so here are these vectors, okay? So those are those vectors. Those are going to be for the bowl. Now, let's just, for kicks and giggles, let's take these vectors, and we're going to also copy them to the other side. So they're over on the other side as well. We don't need all of the vectors on the other side over there, but that will, that'll be fine to kind of get us started and all. And then I want to bring in, and instead of drawing, I could draw the spider from scratch, different shapes, the different rectangles and all. But I found a graphic that would be a good tracing graphic for the vectors to give me the general shapes. So it kind of speeds up the process. So I'm going to import that vector for the spider. So we're going to import a bitmap. And it's going to be this one right here. And so we're going to use this because when it traces this outline, it'll give me kind of where the joints are, and it'll be easy for me to draw the vectors to create those different joints and things. So this will be a good shape to start with. And so I'm going to go into the trace bitmap tool. I'm going to convert it to a black and white. I'm going to turn this up to 75. I'm going to turn the fading off so we can see it. And then I'm going to just hit preview. I'm going to click apply, close, and then I'm going to turn off that layer for the bitmap. And this is going to give me a general starting shape. Now I got to actually draw the vectors for the individual legs and joints, and what I draw I'm going to copy because they're going to kind of pretty much be, you know, similar. There'll be just slight differences and things like that. But this gives me just the anatomy of it all, right? You know, it kind of gives me, you know, gets me started and everything. And so when I'm looking at something like this, or ladies and gentlemen, if I'm looking at a reference image, let's say this one right here and everything, when I look at this shape, I see a rectangle that has a large radius on each of the back corners, of a little bit smaller radius on the two front corners, a little bit of a bulge. They won't, not straight lines, you know, on the sides to kind of create this body shape. If you look at the front body shape and everything, again, another rectangle here, slight bulge and everything, and then your radius is on the corners, right? So general shapes. These are rectangles, and when we create the dome models and everything, that will, when we create the dome models and stuff on that, that will create kind of that roundness. And then we can use things like the smudge tool to kind of, you know, flatten areas out and things like, there's all kinds of stuff that we can do, right? And so when you're looking at something that might seem complicated and all, break it down into shapes. What shapes can I start with that I can use node editing with, or that I can drag lines around or whatever and all? What shapes gets me started and everything. Let's see here. Carrie says, yes. Carrie asked where, if I could drop the link to the bowls that inspired me, those beautiful bowls from that CAD CAM website. I sure can. I surely can. Let me see here. I surely can. It was give me just a moment. Well, I'll give you this. It was on Pinterest, but copy. Here, visit site. There we go. That's the link I wanted. Nope. Sorry, that item's unavailable. Hold on a second, Carrie. I got it. Let's see. CG Trader. Here it is on Pinterest. Let me give you this link. And then the name of the website's right there in the picture, Carrie, and then you can go from there. So let me copy this link and give it to you right here. Paste. And then it's AB or CAB Albet's CAD CAM, CAB, and then you might be able to, you know, kind of find the site from there or what have you, to point you in the right direction. And then CG Trader, that's another, cgtrader.com. You can click on bowls or type in wood bowls, and you'll see some of those other general shapes and stuff. But Carrie, that should get you, you should be able to track it down. It's that CAD CAM. You can probably Google that and you'd find their site. Okay, so the let me get Carrie's comment. There we go. All right, so now basically with this spider and everything, the different areas and stuff, you know, of the body and everything, those I've got to draw. Actually, to be able to model it, I actually have to have the vectors, right? If I just take this one vector and I create kind of a domed profile, let me show you what that looks like. It doesn't look good at all. If I come in here with this vector and I go into my create a rounded profile shape, and let's say that I do this at a 30 degree and click create. Let's go a little bit bigger. Let's go 60 degree. Let's double that up, create, and everything. It's not going to be, you know, it's going to be kind of that, right? You know, if I just take that vector and kind of, you know, build that up, it's going to be that. And it's not really going to be like awe-inspiring. It's not going to be that great. All I'm doing with this vector, all I am doing with this vector is just kind of giving me an outline, because I'm not a spider specialist, right? You know, you know, and drawing and all that stuff. The actual body, I probably won't even use the general shapes of the body, and I'll probably do exactly like I just said here in a little bit. Let's go back into a top view. Let's go back to our 2D view here. And like I said, this shape here is a kind of a rectangular shape. And on that rectangle body, and it's going to stop right there because there's going to be another small shape here and then another one. It's going to be that hinge, you know, between the back and the main body and everything. So on this shape here, the fillet tool is what's going to give me, the fillet tool is going to be what gives me the ability to come in and round this off. Let me see how big my shape is first before I start. 0.625 wide. Okay. So the fillet tool, 0.3. We want a normal fillet, not a T-bone fillet. But this is going to allow me to kind of round that back area out. And then here, these are going to be a smaller fillet. So let's go with 0.15 or something. And that's going to be here. But on the front here in node editing, these vectors and whatever I do over here, I want to kind of apply over here as well. So I'm actually going to come in here and in the, let's see if I can stop. Let me get out of node editing real quick. Let me move this over here so everybody can see. On the node editing, the there we go. I'm going to select these 4 nodes right here, and I'm just going to pick one, and I'm going to kind of mirror vertically. Nope, horizontally. What am I thinking? Mirror horizontally. Meaning whatever I do with these 2 nodes on the left is going to happen for me on the right. Okay. So that allows me, I can kind of pull these in and it'll allow me to start kind of creating that, you know, that shape and everything. So when I mirror in node editing, when I have the vector selected and all, I can mirror horizontally or vertically, and whatever I do to those nodes will happen to the other nodes, kind of thing. And so once I have, you know, the general shape and everything, then I can start creating the other shapes and stuff, right? So it all started from a rectangle. All the shapes are going to be rectangles. And then from there, they're going to have curves, or they're going to have this, or they're going to have that. Now, right here, let's take a second. Right here on the on this here, the remember I said it's not really straight, it's kind of more bulged out, right, and everything. So really I want to kind of select these vectors here and oops, select that one and this one, and once again we'll mirror that horizontally right down the middle there, and kind of whatever I do here, make it a Bezier curve. And on this, let me make this one a Bezier curve. And so I don't think it's going to let me mirror the Bezier curve. Let me see how. I don't think it's going to let me mirror that. So I'm going to delete this point here and here. And that what that's going to do, it's going to give me this these curve handles and everything. And then I can just pull this out. And I should be able to, now that I have those handles, I should be able to mirror that. And I should be able to pull that in and out. Let me come over here and I should be able to select that one. There we go. And so they're going to be slightly more rounded. Let's go a little bit like that. And then down here, this one, this for some reason got moved. It needs to be kind of down so it matches there. And so that'll give me my main body shape. And then I can start with the hinge in the middle of the body, and then the next one, and then the legs, right? So node editing is going to help me get to kind of, you know, where I need to go for the spider. So let's move those over real quick. We're going to do those in just a minute. We're going to knock out that spider really quickly in just a second, but I want to kind of take over on this bowl here. And on the center of the bowl, this center area, let's go into create a dolmen dish. Now remember, my stock is 2 inches deep. Okay. So no matter what I do, I need to make sure that my my overall height does not exceed my thickness and all that of my material and everything. So I don't want to go exactly 2 inches, because that's how thick my material is. I need some meat on that bottom base and all that stuff, right? And some wall thickness and stuff like that. So I'm just going to go 1.25 inches deep for right now on this. And what we should see if we look over here is this dish. Let's turn off the vector so you can see. And let me turn on a zero plane to really give you a bit of a better visual. Model. Oh, I got to close this first. Okay. And you can see that dish. Now, very quickly, you see that lip right here and everything. That lip is generated most likely because my model on my job setup, my material setup, not job setup, my material setup, on the material setup, my model is probably sitting down low, right? And it needs to be at the top of this side here. It needs to be on the top side. And the bottom side will create that in just a moment. Now, the on that dish, we're going at a 1.25 inches for right now. We'll change the depth if we can, based on what all is going to happen on the other side. But that is going to be kind of the main part here. Now, on side 2, well, let me flip over here. On side 2, we're going to be doing a bit of a 2-rail sweep. And in order to do a 2-rail sweep, we're going to draw a profile. So on this profile, I'm going to start off with a rectangle. And the rectangle right now is going to be 2 inches in height, because that's how thick my block is. And the width is going to be the measurement that is from this outer edge to the ends, or to the outside edge of this little ring, this platform area right here. So that horizontal measurement, which is 4.5 inches there, that is going to be what my width of this rectangle is going to be. So let's go to the size, and the width is 4.5 inches by 2 inches in height. Okay. And now this gives me something I can draw my shape and all that with. So here, what's going to, on the shape and all, the lip, that outer lip and everything is going to be important. There has to be some thickness here for that rim and all, because I'm not going, I want that brim, around everything and all. So I'm going to take the line, and I'm going to, let's do it with guidelines. Let's be precise here. I'm going to take a guideline here, and I'm going to right click, and I want a parallel guide. I'd like to have it go up 1/2 inch. 0.75. Now, the reason why I chose 1/2 inch is because when I model the spider and when I model the web, we'll see how much material that's going to take, depending on how, I'm not going to make it too thick. It's going to be nice, but it's not going to be too bad. I think 1/2 inch of material is going to be a decent amount to accomplish those two things. So we'll start at, let's go 0.625. Okay, so that's there. Now, the little base, that flat area that I said that it was going to sit on and everything from the top up here, I only want that to be maybe 1/4 inch thick. So I'm going to create a parallel guide, and it's going to be negative because it's going down 0.25. Oh, let's try that again. Let's try that again. Make a relative guide negative 0.25. All right. Now, what this is going to represent, that's the height of that little lip. So this, think of this block right now as kind of upside down, right? We're looking at the bowl upside down. And so on that lip, starting at this edge and everything, there's going to be a curve, an arc. I'll just draw it as an arc. Let me see what's going to be the best way. I want it to be more rounded. So let's look at this real quick. So there's going to be a line that's going to come over here. This is going to represent the, oops, didn't snap to the guideline there. So this line is going to represent, now this is the outside edge of that bowl right there. So this, all of this area. Now my lip only goes to here. And let me give you that measurement. That lip is only to here, because this is this inside circle, that's the inside of the dish, right? So my lip really goes right up to that dish there. And so that measurement is 2.5 inches. And so on this block here, I'm going to create a guideline 2.5 inches over. And from this point over to this point, it needs to start, it needs to be that bowl, shape. Now, the question is, do I come in here and make a circle? Not like that, not right there, but let's hold the shift key down. Do I make a circle that meets up, to there? That gives me a nice rounded bowl and everything. There's no undercuts or any of that stuff. So starting at the bottom corner here, just drawing a circle to get that kind of radius there. And so that would work for me. And I actually am going to, the lip's going to go right up to there and around. So that will be fine. Let's make sure that I didn't overshoot my shape. I'm holding down the shift key to size both sides in, creating that. And I'm going to take my scissors and get rid of all of this. The line, I thought I left the line there. This line is going to go here. Let's get rid of the guidelines now so you can see. We're going to trim this away. So that's going to be that. And then this guideline stays right here and this line here. So we got to trim away this. And the bottom line we don't use in a profile, that span, so we delete that span. So this is going to be the shape of kind of my bowl. Now I could go wider if I think, like I said, that other bowl, the one with the honeycomb, it went all the way out to the edge. I'd like it to have a lip, I want it to sit. Now this is where it starts flattening off right here at the bottom and everything. So this is just a curve into the flatness. All you're seeing is right up to that rim and all. So that's my profile for the 2-rail sweep. And on that, we're going to do a 2-rail sweep. We're going to select this vector and this vector. Not the, get rid of that. And hopefully y'all are still with me and understand. Let me pull this over on the screen so everybody can see. And I'm going to pull it right here so you can kind of get the general idea of what's going on here. Now, notice this on this shape here. This is where the inside of my bowl is, right? That's where the dish starts. And so my line, I'm a little off right here. So I'm going to go into node editing, and I'm going to pull that out to here. I need that transition to occur. And I actually need to pull it out to here, because I need it to be the thickness of this. And when I did that, changed the shape of my bowl. Hold on a minute, dadgummit. I'm selecting both of these nodes right here. And one more time. Those and that. And I'm pulling my arrow, using my arrow key on my keyboard. Now, I need to micro step over here, so I'm going to hold the control key down while I'm hitting my arrow key, so I micro step to there. And I want that node to land right on there. So this is going to be the shape of my bowl. It looks weird because we're kind of looking at it as a 2D view here and everything. But on the 2-rail sweep, we're going to select this vector and this vector here. That's going to be our drive rails. What's very important is to make sure our drive rail arrows are facing the same direction. We're going to select our vector, and then we're going to apply that. And what we should have is this shape here. Now, you see how it drops down right here? How that drops down in the middle? The reason why that's dropping down is because of this down vector right here. And what I should do is I should remove this down vector and run a straight line straight across to the midpoint right here. And that's going to create the flat. So let me do that. We're going to take a second. Let's get rid of this. With that being said, I need to come straight across here, right to the middle. Y'all still with me? Okay. This vector is going to go away. And I actually want a little bit of a lip. I need a little bit of a lip. I need this to stand proud. And I want it, like I said, 1/4 of an inch. So this actually has to step down 1/4 of an inch and then come into this shape. So let me do that. All right, on node editing, I'm going to cut. This actually needs to move over to that node. Hold on a minute. This actually needs to move over to that node right there. But in node editing, I'm going to cut the vector here. And that will loosen this up, and I'm going to bring it down here. And I'm actually going to kind of see if I can finesse my shape a little bit. I can't, whatever I do, I can't generate an undercut. So that's gonna, we'll use that shape right there. Just can't generate an undercut and everything. Okay, now the vectors, these two vectors have to be joined together. And right now they're two separate vectors. There's a disconnect on them. And so I need to connect those two together and connect those two together so that it's one open vector. And that'll be good. Now, timeout. There's two separate tool paths that I could, or two model creating tools I could use for this. One is the turn and sweep tool, and the other is the two-rail sweep. Right now, we're looking at the two-rail sweep, but we can also, I'll show you the turn and spin tool too, which will, work as well. But let's select the two vectors. And Kimberly, Candy? What's the question mark about Candy? What's your question about Candy? I'm missing. For some reason, I'm missing. Put to the bowl. Give me a second. Let me see what I'm missing here. I see what I'm missing. Okay, give me just a moment. Let me verify that's correct. I've got the line drawn to here, but I'm using this vector out here. And the moral of that theme is I'm going to cut that vector off right there. And we're going to do that one more time. So let's delete this. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I screwed up on that. We're going to select this and this. Don't be stupid. It needs that leg. That's the whole thing, is the leg is not there, so it's cutting it off. So let me put the leg on here. And then we can move on. Join. All right, straight line. Going to come down. I need to align with this endpoint. And that's another problem. My vector is below the center line, so I'm going to move it up on the center line there. Go into node editing and pull that up to there. All right, one more time, ladies and gentlemen. It's finicky when it's wants a certain something to happen or to be in place or to be in line. So let's do this one more time. Better. All right, let's delete the first component. And the second. Okay. The dish area here is a little bit too deep for my liking. I don't want it to be, I want that lip, but that's too hollow right in there. So we're going to take this vector and we're going to fill in we're going to fill in this area. And let me actually look at real quick. Let me look at the, I'm going to turn this component off for a second. Let me look at the other tool. If I select this and I use the spin around, oh, I'm on the wrong side. Hold on a second. For that tool, it has to be flipped over that direction. It works off the left side. So let me delete that. Let's do that one more time. And that's what I'm looking for. So that's exactly what I want. So the turn and spin tool is going to be the better option for this instead of the 2-rail sweep, because that's exactly, I needed to fill in that center. That's 100% what I want that to look like, because so the 2-rail sweep was not the way to go on that one. See, learning, ladies and gentlemen. We figure out what mistakes we're making and then we just go from there. Okay, let's delete that one. That'll be our bottom. Now, one more. Like I said, I want it to be slightly hollow in here. So this vector on the inside is going to be a flat shape. It's going to be a subtract, and we're only going to subtract a 1/4 of an inch. Remember, I want that 1/4 of an inch rise. So we're going to do that, and that's going to give me that little hollow area. So the when the bowl is sitting on the table, it's actually going to be sitting on this rim more so than anything else. Now, on this rim, it's going to get smoothed over and everything like that, but I'm actually going to add a draft to it. And on the draft, we're going to do that right now. I'm just going to add a draft to this. We'll go 20 degrees. I'm going to go in here and turn this resolution down just for a minute. I'll turn it back up in a second. But let's get through this draft. A little quicker. Kimberly says that's just going to give a little bit of a flare right here, just that little 20-degree, nothing major, just instead of a straight wall, it just kind of flares it out. So that way, when I smooth everything, it'll just blend really nicely. We'll turn up the resolution on the model. I just turned it off. I turned it down because it was taking its sweet time generating. All right, so now that's the underside of the bowl here. The outer perimeter, I'm still leaving this wood in here because this is kind of a two-sided project, you know, and stuff like that. So we're going to leave that there. It'll just get profile cut out. Again, if I wanted it to look like a spider web on the underside, the waves and all that, that's a project for another day. It's not for this project right now. I mean, it's a same project it could be, but not tonight. Tonight we're just going to make a bowl because we still got to model. We're already an hour into class and we still got to model the spider and the web. All right, so but this is what the bottom is going to look like, and then this is what the top is going to look like minus the ring. Let's get rid of, let's do this. Let's do this. On the side, on side one, let's turn off the zero plane. Okay. And so what you can see is on this bowl and everything here. So this is going to be the bowl. Again, it's only a 2-inch, so it's still a dish. It's not really a bowl. I mean, it's kind of a bowl, but it's not really a bowl. But this material up here, this is about to get turned into a spider web. And then there's going to be a spider modeled on there. And remember, I only gave myself a kind of a 1/2 inch of that to deal with. But but this is the bowl area, you know, here. And then, of course, there's a wall thickness. I did 3/8 of an inch wall thickness. So from the bottom side of this bowl to the inside of this bowl, there's a bit of a 3/8 of an inch. There's a bit of a 3/8 of an inch wall thickness there and everything. And my draft is a little rough on the edges. We're going to clean that up. That's because I made the draft on a lower resolution. I'll go back and fix that. But anyhow, yes, Kimberly, we're going to use alignment pins to flip it over from side one to side two, for sure, you know, and everything. And a draft is an angle. So instead of having in a draft, you hear that term a lot in construction, like in concrete or with molds and things like that, or even in manufacturing with you know, plastic injection molding and stuff like that. But a draft, instead of the walls being straight, the walls are at a slight angle. This allows the part to pop out of the mold easier, right, kind of thing. Well, in this scenario, the draft, we're not using it for any kind of mold at all. It just gives a little slight angle to give a little bit of base meat to the part, so that it will add a little bit of angle to it, so it's not so straight and everything. Metric documents, to add a draft tool will automatically add a minimum angle to any steep walls that exist in your model. The draft angle is specified by using the slider bar. Yep, exactly right. Okay. All right, so let's flip this back over. And now we're going to kind of start, making the web. Now for the web, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit on this. A little. I'm going to import an image of a spider web. And I'm going to use it a little bit, and we'll change the size and everything so we get some more of the web in there. But I'm going to kind of use the vectors that get traced here to help me kind of create the web a little bit and everything and stuff. And so let's go into the trace tool. Going to convert it to a black and white. I'm going to slide this up to 75. 75 is my go-to threshold, 50 to 75 for the most part on most things. And I always go to 75. And then if 75 doesn't work for me, then I go down from there. But 75 is always my go-to on things like that. All right, now from here, what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is because I have this vector and everything, and I could, on this vector, let's get rid of the image. Okay, on this vector and everything here, I could skew it. Let me close this tool. On this here, I could skew the web, right? So it's kind of larger on one side and smaller on the other. It's all going to get trimmed in here and everything, but I could skew it to kind of give it, a little bit of a different shape, so it's not exactly perfectly symmetrical and things like that. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. You just, whatever kind of shape you want, I can kind of give it that aggressiveness, because what's going to happen here is I'm actually going to be taking this vector and the vector where the bowl starts right there. I need, now when this bowl starts, this is where the outer wall is. So I'm going to kind of start right here on this outer one, not where the bowl starts, but kind of right here. I'm going to have it, it'll be kind of a little bit of a flat area around the bowl. But those two vectors, I'm going to click on them and I'm going to hit G for group to group them together so they're treated like one item. And I'm going to select this vector of the spider web first, hold down the shift key and select those two rings second. And I'm going to go to the trim tool. Let me think for a second. On this outside one, let me ungroup that. On this outside one, I don't want to go right up to the edge because this is going to be my profile cut. Let me think. Profile cutout. Yeah, I want to go right up to the edge. So that was right. So G for group again. Select the spider web. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go into the trim tool and I'm going to clear everything outside of the boundary away. So when I do that, it should redraw this vector, clearing away everything and just kind of leaving this vector here. Okay. And this vector is a closed vector. So I can build off of it. And with this one, I'm going to go a rounded shape. I want it rounded a little bit on the top and then a little bit of straight edge. So I'm going to go with a low round, maybe let's go 45 degrees. Let's click create. and I need it to have some base height. So I want to go a 1/16 of an inch. This all will get drafted, so there'll be a draft on this. We're going to do that in just a second, but a 1/16 of an inch is going to be good. I don't want to go too high on it because of the simple fact that what am I trying to say? Give me just a second to get my thoughts straight here. I don't want to go too high because I have to build the spider, right? The spider has to have some height too, and I only have an inch. I only have a 1/2 inch of material to kind of work with, so I don't want to build up too much. Now, what I'd like to do, what would be ideal for me? Let me come in here and look at this real quick. Okay. On the side 2 here, notice how my bowl comes out past, that model comes out past this line here. I'm going to take a second and hold down the shift key. That was the draft angle there. I'm going to select this component and I'm going to clear everything outside of that vector away. I'm going to remove that. And what that should do is that should bring my web right up to the edge there on that outside. Exactly like that. Okay. This inner area right here where the that space going into this rim, this is all this material has to get carved away. All this material has to get carved away to here, and it's, you know, to transition into this bowl area and stuff. And so the what I probably am going to do is I'm probably going to take these 2 vectors right here, and I'm going to build a flat profile, a 1/16 of an inch tall, same height as my web. Oh. I've got another vector selected somewhere. Hold on a second. What other vector selected? Oh, those are grouped together. So when I was selecting the inside one, it was selecting the outside one like a goober. So we actually need to delete this one and this one. Okay, one more time. See, I had this outside one selected. That was a no-no. I need these 2 vectors selected right here, this one and this one. All right, so one more time. Flat, 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625. Click create. That's going to give me this little ring right here. And you see how it bulged this up instead of kind of blending with it, right? Because this was cut right off here. Well, what I need to do instead of doing it all on one level, I actually need, let's get rid of that really quickly. I actually need this vector. I need to create another one, slightly offset outward from that. I'm just going to go a few thousandths of an inch. 0.03 is fine. And I actually need to use this vector and this vector here. And when I create this flat shape, that 1/16 of an inch flat shape and everything on there, what's going to happen is in the 3D view, you see how it bulged up where the spider webs and all. That's because on those components, I need to create a new level. I need these two models, the web and this ring, to interact with each other, but not interact with the model that's below it. I need that level to interact. So what I mean by that is the web and this ring have to merge together, but they both have to be added to the one below it. So insert a new level. The ring and the spider web, these two need to merge with each other. So that they blend and merge with one another. And then that level needs to add to the level below it. So it needs to sit on top. Okay. We got that. All right. Now I have some weird anomalies right here that are just anomalies. Exactly that. So turning off that model, turning it back on, it's a glitch. It's a glitch. All right, so that's going to be the top. Now we got to put the spider on, okay? We're an hour and 21 minutes on it, still doing good. Still, y'all's minds are still with me, hopefully. Hey, Kimberly, thank you so much. Nice. Get this cool, yeah, get the full-size candies. There you go. I appreciate that. Super chat. That means so much to me, Wendy. Thank you, or Kimberly Wint. And if I pronounce your last name, Wint, did I pronounce that correctly? Let me know in the chat. Thank you so much, Kimberly. That means a lot. Okay, now we're going to model our spider. Now I'm going to draw all the vectors off right here. So that way, I can drag it into place in just a minute. But I'm going to get everything drawn out right here, and then we'll go from there. Now, I'm just using the spider kind of as my reference, especially the legs and everything. So all I'm going to do is draw one leg, and then it's going to get copied around, and then it'll get adjusted, like if there's any slight little difference in everything. But I'm going to kind of make it simple on myself, right? And, because, some of them are going to be straight, some of them are going to be bent, right? We need to do that. But I'm going to draw one. I'm not going to draw the vectors for every single leg. I'm going to draw one leg vector, and then I'll copy it around, and then I'll make the node adjustments as I need on that and everything. Now, so starting with that, there's going to be 3 hinges or 3 sections on the leg. And then there's going to be a little ball section, a little square here. So if I was drawing this, ladies and gentlemen, remember what I said, I'm starting kind of with a rectangle, right? And so on the rectangle, imagine, if you will, that we have a slightly larger rectangle, which is representing the larger part of the arm here, or the leg. And then there's going to be a smaller rectangle. Let me get this one. We'll get it all centered and everything in just a minute. There's going to be a smaller rectangle, and then there's going to be an even smaller rectangle, right? So imagine, and they're going to be shaped. They're going to be rounded with node editing and all that stuff. But imagine, if you will, that's the shapes we're kind of starting off with. And then from there, we're going to do some node editing and kind of clean things up, right? And so for the most part, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to drag this over to one of the legs here. And I want to kind of get my joints and lengths about right. So I'm going to, this one is fine here. It's going to be fatter, so it's going to be a little shorter. This one's going to be slightly longer. And this one's going to really kind of be a little bit longer. So we're going to go something like that. So that's going to be roughly the general shape. That's just the rough, oops. That's going to be the rough shape. Now we're going to go into node editing, and we're going to really make this thing look, like something. So we'll start off with the little one because it's going to be kind of the easiest. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pull this more to a point here. And I'm going to turn the legs into kind of a Bezier curve so I can, adjust how they are and everything as far as what I want, that tip to look like on the foot and all that stuff. And so it doesn't have to be, it's a spider leg, right? It doesn't have to be perfect at all. On the edges here, I don't really care what happens here because this is going to be disappearing into the other leg. It's going to be merged into the other joint. So I don't care really what happens here. That doesn't matter. But here on the sides, I want to be able to kind of turn this into a Bezier curve as well. So I can, make any adjustment. And on this one, I'm actually going to delete this point so that I'm kind of working with this here. And if I felt that that I need it to kind of curve in or anything, I can do all that. I can add extra points in there to give it a little bit of rigidness and all that stuff. If I want, I can kind of change some things slightly and all. But again, I got to be somewhat organic. So this is good. I'm going to call this good for this one, right? Now here, same thing. Now this joint is actually going to be a little bit wider, but it's going to kind of more come from this leg and bulge out here. So on node editing, I'm actually going to pull this over and pull this over, and I'm going to turn this into a Bezier curve on both sides. Node editing. And and I want kind of that bulge here. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to come a little bit off that. So it does kind of look like it's jointed inside there. Maybe not that far off. About like that. This leg here can have a little bit of an organic shape where it kind of comes in a little bit. That's good. And then the bigger leg. And again, these things are going to get turned and all that stuff. So this is just a starting point. I'll be able to stretch these, make them longer. I'll be able to do all that stuff and everything. But similar scenario here. So I'm going to pull this in. Bezier curve. Now on the back side here, there's going to be kind of a ball joint here. So this is going to actually go into kind of a ball joint. But let me pull this out. And I actually want this to be a little bit fatter, heavier on the leg there, kind of deal and stuff. And so you'll see how this comes together when we actually make the shapes. Now I want to take and right here, imagine if you will, let me get out of node editing. Let me group this together so it kind of treated as one item. And let's find something that's fairly straight. Let me rotate a little bit. So kind of imagine, if you will, that this is the the leg and all. I can kind of start getting the size right and everything. I can ungroup this, and I can come on to this one. Node editing. I can maybe pull this up a little bit into here and here, pull that back around. Whatever shape that I want to kind of get in that, that general fills and all that stuff and all. But there's going to be a kind of a ball right here that's going to connect to this, another joint, if you will. And so on that, for that ball, I'm actually going to use more of an ellipse. And let me actually rotate that, size it up. All right, so now I'm going to hold the shift key down and I'm going to grab this on this side and I'm going to pull it in. I need to be somewhat smaller. Not a circle. And kind of want to pull that into there. Okay, so I'm going to select those 4 shapes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's move them over here now. And the this is the back body. Okay. And then there's going to be another body here. So let's get, as a matter of fact, we can actually, I'll just take this one here, hold down the control key, drag a copy of it up here. And this one in node editing, it's going to be a little bit more rounded. Kind of at the, here and everything, it's going to be a little bit more rounded. This is going to be more in line. I'm going to take this right here and just kind of use that as my joint. Okay. And then on the legs, there's going to be 8 of these. And they're going to have different shapes. Some's going to have a bend and all that to them. I'm going to try to, I like the way this one is laid out. So I'm actually going to kind of work off of its body style and everything. And so kind of, coming into this general area, and there's still going to be a head. I got to draw the head and the 2 little prongs out there. This is just the body and all. But I kind of like this. Now I'm a stickler for this. You want it to be somewhat organic, but I'm actually going to kind of mirror some of the stuff so that it's a little easier for me to just kind of place. So that way when I have a placement for the things, when I have a placement and all, I can come over here and select this line. And I can kind of, go into the mirror tool and flip them about that line to kind of create that same, similar area and all that stuff, right? And everything. And if once I get it somewhat laid out and stuff, if I feel that things need to get wider or bigger or this or that, then I'll do that. And again, there's no head on this just yet. So we're just going with there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, maybe sometimes it's to demo without standard practice. Come on, guys and girls, click on the like icon. Thanks, man. Brooks, maybe sometimes it's to demo without standard practice. Clarify that, please, for me. I'm not sure exactly what you're meaning by that. I'm going to hit G for group on this set of legs right here so I can move it around much easier. But now, holding down the control key, I'm going to come down here and I'm actually going to size this one down a little bit. And it's going to rotate now. We're not done yet, but I'm going to size it down just slightly. I'm going to rotate it a little bit more and I'm going to get it right on that joint. Rotate it a little bit more. And then I'm going to ungroup this. And I'm going to kind of turn these two parts right here. Let me turn them a little bit and then move them back into place. Get a little bit of a turn going on there. Oh, don't do that. So, you know, I'm starting to get a little bit of a bend. Now, on the rotate part of it and everything, I don't have to, like I'm moving this and rotating. I can drag, I can click here and I can drag that pivot point, you know, here. And I can kind of rotate off that pivot point. Like if I want to, you know, turn this a little bit or something. And what I want to do is I want to make sure I'm still in my joint area there. And then I'm going to do this one. I'm going to turn this one a little bit more. Okay. So I'm going to call that good. Again, this all makes sense when we actually make the shape, but I'm going to go ahead and select these 4 vectors again. Select that line last, and I'm just going to flip about the line again just to get a shape on there, right? I could spend hours moving and articulating these legs to create the perfect, you know, shape that I want and all that stuff. But tonight, you know, this is just to give you the basics, the idea, the general concept, and then from there you work your magic from there. I'd put the legs on the body in a separate layer and maybe change their color and things like that. Sure. Yep. Absolutely. We'll probably do that for the finished model and stuff. All right. So now I've got the upper legs here. Now I just need the lower legs, and all I'm going to pretty much kind of do there is I'm going to take and select these vectors, these two, and I'm literally going to hold down the control key, drag a copy of them out. I'm going to kind of flip them vertically. V as the keyboard shortcut I clicked for that vertical flip. I'm going to drag them over. We'll rotate them, and I'll move the I'll move this one in just a second. But take this and kind of move in here. And on this one, I'm going to get that pivot point and bring that pivot point over here. That way I can just kind of pull this out just a little bit. And on this one here, I'm going to ungroup it. And I'm just going to bend the leg a little bit. Let me first, I want to move it up a little bit closer here. But I'm going to bend the leg just a little bit. Not much, but I'm going to do it with these two parts. So select both of those, click on the middle part here, and go just move that pivot point down. So that way I can kind of turn this ever so slightly. And then I'm going to slide over, make sure I'm still in that joint area. But I'm just going to take it, somewhere like that. And then on these two parts here, once again, I'm going to select them. And again, like I said, I could spend hours getting this spider articulated with all kinds of different leg positions and things like that, and all of that stuff and everything. Now, what for visual purposes and everything, what Brooks Martin was pointing out is, on the legs and everything, of course, I got everything all on one layer. I could go in and, select all of the leg parts and come in and put them on a separate layer. So move to a new layer. I could call it legs. And I could give them a different color. Let's say that I gave them kind of a blue. So that way when we're looking at the different parts and all, we can see the difference in those vectors and stuff like that. We know what we're working on and all that stuff and everything. All right, let's kind of get the head going on here. So I'm going to take and I'll start off with, again, a little bit of a rectangle. All right, in node editing, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. I'm going to go into Bezier curve on both of these. Now, notice here I drew this and I'm still in that legs layer, right? So make sure that you make the layer that you're working on active. And don't accidentally, draw in the wrong layer and all that stuff. All right, so same thing here on the head. And all the body parts, they could have their own layer and all that wonderful jazz, whatever you want. All right, so what I'm doing here with this is going to go into node editing. I'm going to go with a Bezier curve, and I'm going to pull this out. Kind of curve here. And on here, same thing, but this is going to get pulled. Oh, this is going to get pulled in. I'm going to delete this point, and I'm going to make this kind of a and actually I can bring that in a little bit. And I'm going to bring this into the body. That way when I'm going to bring it down into the body, that way when I build the parts, they're going to merge together and stuff like that. And all. On the head is just going to have, you got to think about the full vector here. So there's a head right here. I'll give it kind of that little mouth shape there. It doesn't matter, on this. If we look at our inspiration photo, you can kind of see what they did here. They kind of gave it some shape, and all that stuff and everything. If we look at the other inspiration photo, which was this one, you can see really it's just kind of just two square shapes with two little prongs coming out, right? So, we're just going with kind of, this general generic shape right here. We could get real fancy like the other one, all that wonderful stuff. So node editing on this, we're going to Let me cut the vector here. I'm going to turn this into a Bezier curve so I can kind of pull that up and down. Bear with me a second. All right, I'm going to take those two and I'm going to join them with a straight line just to kind of pull that in. Again, whatever whatever shape, right? This is going to be kind of a generic shape. All right, I need to take this. I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I'm going to hold down the shift key, select that, and flip it about the line. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's build this model. So now in order to build the model, we're going to, let's take everything that we have, that we drew, that we created, all the vectors we created and stuff, and let's move it over. And so we're not really like got a lot of stuff in our way and all. We can take, I know the legs, the spider legs and all are on one layer. I'm just going to, for right now, I'm just going to move them all to that leg layer for a minute because I'm going to turn off layer 1 for a minute so I can build and work on here and stuff. All right. So for building and working on here, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go into our create shape tool. Let's go to the 3D view. On the 3D view for right now, let's go ahead and turn off this component. I need the layer 2. I need the spider to interact with the web and all that stuff. So I'll keep it on layer 2, but I'll go ahead and turn those off for right now. And on the spider, we're going to go ahead, create a round shape. Now I'm going to end up pushing the stuff with the smudge tool and things like that. But for right now, I want to kind of dome this up, right? So let's go to the 3D view. And I want when I build up this body and everything, I want it to go like full on dome, right? So I'm going to go the full 90 degrees here, and I want it to be, I don't want any straight meat underneath it. So I want a nose base height, and this is going to be, I'll call it the butt. I don't know, the rear, what have you. Let's turn this to the side so you can see what's going on here and everything. So I'll end up kind of smudging this a little bit to put a little bit more weight back here and flattening out a little bit up front. But so that's going to be the butt area. The next vector, that hinge area and stuff, same thing. It's also going to be a 90-degree dome, kind of, and again, I could probably flatten it out. So what I'll do is I'll go 90 degrees, but I'll limit it to 80%, and then it's going to merge with the other part. So what that 80% does is it rounds off and then it flattens out right here. Okay. And everything. All right. And then the body, again, 90 degree, but I'm going to have this one also flatten out. I'm going to also have it flatten out, and I'm probably going to go 75. So it's a little bit more kind of flat here and everything. Good. And again, ladies and gentlemen, when I have components and stuff, I can make adjustments all on the fly. Whatever, as I go, I can make adjustments on the fly, if I want to change something and all in the 3D view. I'm going all 90 right now, just to give me the most out of the dome that I get, and then I can do, from there, I can do the smudging and all that stuff and everything and all. I can flatten out and what have you. Now this one is going to, I'll probably just go 60 on this one. Let's see. Let me see what 90 looks like. Yeah, I'm going to go the full 90. And then I'll be able to smudge and things and all that stuff, from there. All right, now on the hip joints, I want the hip joints, they're going to kind of be sort of like this back joint here between the front and the back. And on the back, I want this to actually raise up a little bit higher. So I'm going to do a little bit of a tilt on that back as well after I smudge it a little to push some of the meat of this material. You'll see in a minute. But I also want to tilt this to give it a little bit. I can't go too high because I got all my weight I'm thinking about. I've got to think about my wood, right? How much wood and all I got. But on all the joints, instead of individual components, I think I'm going to, it might be a bad idea, but I think I'm going to that's a bad idea. I'll do them individually. That way I can control them individually and everything and stuff. So I'll leave them independent of one another. I'm just going 90 degrees. They're merged. Everything is merged. So it's merging into the body. And I'm just doing this 90 degrees all the way around. I can go in there and adjust the shapes and stuff as I need later and things. So, but I want to get the initial shapes done. So 90, create. Almost there, ladies and gentlemen. We are an hour and 55 minutes in. Hang with me just a little bit longer. We'll get this spider made up and then kind of go from there. Oh. Okay, now on that one, I didn't want both vectors, but it was joined together. It was grouped. And you see, I mean, it made it just fine as one group. That's just fine there instead of individual and all. It was all grouped together, but that's exactly what the look we're going for, how it hinges into each other. So that's good, but I want to undo that because I need to ungroup that. This one too, I believe. Let me see, did I have any other group together? Okay, so it was just that one. All right, so let's go back over there. 90. All right, and so that's going to be all the little joints there. And then on here, I can create these models, these legs, as one, just like you saw, and they'll look good and all. And if I want to change their shape a little bit, I can take each leg individually into sculpting, and I can adjust and push and pull and all that stuff. So I don't necessarily have to, you know, make these all this shape, and this shape and all. I can just do it as one. And for time and speed sake, that's going to be the fastest option for me. So notice this leg right here turned black while the others are blue. That's because the vectors, when I ungroup them, it ungrouped them back to their original layer 1. So it moved off that leg layer, so that's why they were black. Anyhow, just thought you. Good stuff. All right, so again, I'm going to go the full 90 degrees on all of these. And each leg individually is going to be its own model, the leg. And I can go into node or sculpting, and I can push, pull, drag, add, remove, whatever I want to do to kind of give it its organic shape. We'll do one of the legs in sculpting so you can see what I'm talking about, and we'll do the butt area. Oops. Now, this one, here, I need to merge it again. There we go. When I clicked off of this one and went to the next one, it wasn't quite applied, and so it kind of froze up my computer. And I got to remember to hit save. None of what we've done tonight has been saved. So after I make this leg, we'll save everything, because boy, it would be a bad day if I lost it right now. Okay, so let's really quickly take a second and save. Now, for a generic spider, not too shabby, right? With no sculpting, no shaping, no modeling, no nothing, right? Not bad. Not, you know, it's a good looking little spider. Nothing wrong with it and everything. What we're going to do with it, however, really quickly, we're going to go into our components. And the components that we're working on and stuff, we really want just that to be what we are modeling and stuff like that, and sculpting and all. And if I select the butt here and I go into sculpting, sculpting wants to sculpt the visible model, not the selected component. So it would want to sculpt the whole thing, and it would say, hey, you know, it would bake everything together, and it would just sculpt the whole thing as one, and I don't want that. Okay, we don't want that. So that in the components and all, it's the visible model. So in this case, I actually want to right-click on that. I named it but I want to go down to show only this. So that's the only thing showing. Let me go over on side 2 and turn off side 2 for a moment. I could have done that. I don't know what I'm thinking. I could have done that right here. I could have turned off that other half and all. But on that, just that butt area right there, that's what I want to go on and sculpt. Got to select it. It's got to be selected, even though it's visible. It's got to be visible, and it's got to be selected. All right. So now what I'm doing with this is, first of all, I'm going to turn my radius down. What I'm doing with this is I'm taking this material right in here, and I want to just kind of push it towards the back, right? So that's called smudging, and I want to basically not aggressively, not a lot and everything. I want to kind of smudge this towards the back. And what that's going to do is it's going to kind of flatten that in. It's really pixelated because I think I had the pixelation turned down to terrible resolution. But you can see how I've smudged. I'm pushed that in. It's like taking it and I was pushing it uphill, right? Kind of thing. And if I screwed up and I didn't want it that much or whatever, I can do the undo brush and run the undo brush right over it. And it's like it didn't even happen, right? So, but that's what I actually wanted. So I really kind of want to move straight back. So in this position here, I just want to kind of go straight to the back. So from here, hold down the button and push, push. Not a lot. I don't want it very deep. I just want a little bit of an indentation right there, like that. Okay. Pull that smudge a little bit more to the front as well. That's it. All right, now on that, on this here, I'm going to bring the height down just a little bit, not a lot, but just a little, because I'm going to go into the properties. And yes, Ronnie, I just saved. I'm going to go into the properties and I'm going to tilt this. So when you tilt, the first place, think of a wedge, right? A thin on one end, thick on the other. The first place you click is the thin part of the wedge. The second place you click is the thick part of the wedge. I actually want to kick this back end up. I want to tilt it up a little bit. So when I click on tilt and I hit set, I'm going to get two anchors. The first anchor is going to have a number 1 next to it. So when I click, that's my number 1 click. And so I'll click there first. And then now I have an anchor with a number 2. And I want to click back here. Doesn't matter really where, just anywhere in that general area. So this way, let me come to the side so you can see. When I tilt this, I'm actually kind of raising that back area, right? You know, I'm raising that back area. So I don't want a major tilt, but I just want to raise it up a little bit back there and stuff. Now I can come in and I can right click and show all. Maybe not all. There we go. So now you can see when that comes together, so how it's kind of like got that, you know, kick up there on the back and everything. On the legs and everything, and right now this is looking kind of like a tick almost, but on the legs and all, let's say, for instance, this leg here, component number 22. I'm going to right click and go show this, only this, right? And with that selected, I'll go in here and I'll go into that smudge tool. And on here, I actually, ladies and gentlemen, let me hit cancel for just a second. Let me go into here. I'm going to hit save, but I need to go in and increase my resolution. Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm building a small model. Let me make myself bigger here. We need to move the spider over to its own sheet. I'm making a small model on a big 15-inch project. My 8 million pixels that are getting spread across that spider is only using a small amount of those pixels, of those 8 million pixels, so that's why it's so badly pixelated. What I need to do proper is I need to create a new sheet, smaller sheet, the size of the spider, and I need to model on that sheet so I have I get that full 8 million pixels, that higher resolution, and then I need to take my component that I create and I can copy it over to the, you know, the bigger sheet. But I need to model it on a smaller one. So I need to take my vectors and the components and I need to move them to a new sheet. And that sheet needs to be edited. I believe my spider is 2 by 3 inches. So edit. We're going to go 4 by 4. Center that onto that sheet. Now, when we look at this in the 3D view and everything, we have a much clearer look at the parts. They're not so pixelated and all that stuff and everything, that mass pixelation that you saw, you know, is gone. All right, so one more time, we're talking about this leg here. On that component, we're going to say show only this. we're going to come over here and we're going to go into the sculpting. Still quite pixelated and all that stuff. We'll do a little bit of smoothing on the leg here. Not a whole lot. But here, if I wanted to, kind of push some of the leg to kind of give it a little bit of an organic shape in things, let me kind of pull that back into that joint area. Oops. I wanted to give it some, kind of shape where it wasn't so rounded or so flat or whatever. I can do whatever sculpting I want to do. Now I'm going to hit undo on that. Not undo, but I'm going to run the undo brush over that. But I can take away some material and everything, whatever, needs to be done to give it, I can smudge, turn down my, my strength doesn't need to be that much. I can, kind of just pull some of these things into volition. I can pull back into this leg. If my aggression, if I really, you can see when I pull and push, I'm still smoothing. Hold on a second. Let me discard that. Meant to be smudging. When I'm, lower there and everything, and I'm pulling and I'm pushing, I'm just kind of like, flattening that area out, right? Kind of just giving it a little bit of an organic shape. I could be aggressive with the strength, and really kind of, taking some of that material away and everything, keeping the transparency. So I could do whatever, I need to do. I can come in and smooth that back out after I kind of flatten it out. That's the wrong tool. I didn't hit smooth at all on that. The whatever it is that you need to do, I actually am not going to do anything on the legs and all. I'm going to just leave it as is. Go down to show all. All right, and that's a crazy glitch. And for right now, let's turn off the vectors. This is going to be my spider. The back and all, I could build that up some. I could have it tapered down to the head. I can kind of smudge it down to the head, do whatever I wanted to do and everything. But for right now, I'm going to have that as is. And this is just, we're looking at this from the top down on the top of this bowl. And again, I said it looks like more like a tick than anything. But I could really go in and do a lot with this. And again, looking at our reference image and stuff, I mean, you see how they've kind of got it more pointy at the top of these legs joints, right? They're not rounded, they're pointed. So it's more of a pyramid shape and everything there and stuff on these upper, hip areas and stuff. And then they kind of round off on the lower ones. Well, that could have been accomplished just as simple as coming in here on this vector, and instead of doing a rounded, let's go to the 3D view for a second. Instead of doing a rounded profile here, I could have done an angular profile, and I could have limited that angular profile to let's say 80%, and I want the angle to be, let's say 35, and click apply. It doesn't need to be that angular. You'd have to draw off the vectors a little bit different and everything for that to work, but I could go into sculpting and smoothing and pull that stuff back out, but that's really not the right approach. So angular profile is not what I want. Let me undo that. What I really want is just to kind of smudge it into that point and things like that. But I also have, instead of using the sharp angular, I could have used this one. And on this one here, on the create shape area, which I'll select this vector, I could have said I want the top somewhat narrow and I want the base somewhat fat. And I do not want to preserve inside corners. I want to kind of blend it with the other vector, and that would have created kind of this shape. And again, I would have squared this off. I would have drawn that a little bit further into the body here, but then I could kind of go in and sculpt that if I wanted to. So it doesn't always have to be. And this is called the Create Smooth Shape tool. So what this does is you have a top and a bottom, and so you can work those two things together. But this vector, I would need to pull that vector all the way into the body here, the back part, so that the round kind of blends into this and it disappears. That little up angle kind of disappears into that, because right now it's going to create this up angle if I try to do an angular part. All right, let's get rid of that. Okay, and let's go back to here. All right, so there's our spider. Now on the spider, it's created in that higher resolution there and everything. So now what I'm going to do is, that's the visible model right there on this sheet. I'm going to go in and I'm going to export that as 3D clip art. And I'm going to put it in the long way around here. Let's go to this PC, C drive. I don't have a shortcut yet on this one, but users, public documents, Vectric files, clip art, animals, spider. All right, and then with that, I can come back over here and out of my clip art, go down to the S's. I'm going to pull that over onto here. And you can see, even on that larger project, it's a much higher resolution now and not so pixelated. That's the magic of it all. Okay, let's get our model turned back on. Let's move along because we're at 2 hours and 18 minutes. I do not want to run over 2.5 hours. So if we have to do this in a part 2, we'll do it in a part 2. But let's wrap this up by going over and turning on our dish, our spider web and our ring, and then on side 2, turn on that base. And all right, now I need the spider and the spider web to play nice with each other. Right now, the spider is adding to the spider web. I need it to merge with it. And I need it to be, let's put it in a position. Let's move the spider over here. And let's size him to be more, let's size him to fit. I'll get them to sit on top of the web here in just a second, but let me get... All right, and then on its properties and stuff, we're going to elevate that up just a bit. I'm going to be creating what's called a draft again. You'll see that in just a minute, but let me get to where he looks. Let me get in the top view so I can see it from the top down. Okay. Now on the spider, I'm going to show only this because it needs to be the visible model. Show only this. And so it's just that. And then I'm going to go in and create the draft. So you'll see it flare out. Okay. If you don't want it to draft that much, we can back that off a little bit. So it's a little more subtle. Okay. And then in the components, that model with the draft is our new spider there. So we'll turn off the original. And then we will come and show all. Let me all of this stuff right here, all of this, all these components need to be turned off because they're all part of that spider. So it the spider is this group right here, that whole group. And if it was on and this was turned off, you would see, you know, that's the full group. So let me turn this back on, turn that off. Here, let's do it this way. Show only this. I don't know what that glitch is, but all right, let's go down here and turn that on, turn that on. All right. So here's our, it's just round right now. You know, there's no shape, you know, it's not, it's just a round bowl, just a round dish and everything. But just to show you, you know, what could be created. We could change the shape of this. You know, it could be elongated. It could be, you know, whatever you wanted it to be. But right now, it's just a candy dish. And we could actually reduce the thickness of this lip right here. We can bring that down a little bit and everything, because this whole thing, this whole size has to be 2 inches from the top of the spider to the bottom of the bowl there. But this is what the bowl looks like. So, I mean, it's going to sit on the table. This rim, again, I could have had this bowl flare all the way out to the edge here, to that bottom, and just flatten out at the bottom. I didn't have to have the rim just kind of floating in the air there. That rim is actually going to be thinner. We're going to take that down, but that's it. So there's your spider bowl. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, and I made that dadgummit, the whole thing I was talking about, I was in small view. What a booger. But let's look at it from the top. You know, so that's it, right? So, but this could have, again, it didn't have to be round. It could have an organic shape to it. You know, it could look like, you know, we could make the spider web look a little, it doesn't have to be so symmetrical, right? We could, you know, change the vectors up a little bit to, you know, make some of the loops smaller or bigger or more narrow. You know, we could bring things closer. It's all in the vectors. If you get the vectors drawn however you want, then when you create the model, it's just going to create in that shape, right? And everything. And like I said, on the bottom side here, this part of the dish and everything don't need it to be this thick right here. So how that's going to get changed is all that is from this thickness right here, this lip. So let me close this and turn off this model for a second. And let's turn off the guidelines for a second. On this vector here, we can make this, it doesn't have to be this thick at the rim here. So we go into node editing, and let's say that, and don't do that. When you select a node, if the anchor is selected to, turn that off, because I don't want to move that. I just want to move this. And so I can, you know, pull this down and then pull this over again, whatever I need to do just to make sure that I'm on that line. That's the most important thing. But I can bring this down thinner. I could even have it taper in like that. And I could come in here and give this a little bit of a taper there, right? That kind of thing. Whatever. And now if I recreate that shape, and once again, you remember how we did that. Let's turn this off, turn this off, turn that off. When we recreated that shape, we did it with the turn spin tool. So we come in here to that spinning and turning vector tool. With that selected, hit apply. And now if we look at that, you can see that it's a much thinner lip, and it has a slight, you know, kind of curve to it. Whatever you wanted it to be. I think I would actually want it a little bit thicker, so let me hit reset on that. Let me pull this up just a little bit right there. Let's do it again. Apply. There we go. So basically what happens is we have, let me see if I can, there's a small little ramp, kind of ramps down to the outer edge here. Small little ramp to that, you know. And then it's a thinner lip there, so it's not as thick and bulky. And there we go. So let's save that. Let's come in here. Now, we didn't get to cut all that stuff. You know, we could probably do that in another class. What I am going to do is I'm going to finesse this just a little bit, you know, make sure I like the spider the way it is. And then I'm going to export this as a model and make it available for download for y'all. And then the, oh, hold on. I got one model to turn on the other side. Let me find my little dish. There we go. And again, I want this to have a taper to it really quickly. Let me go in there and add that draft back in there, that 20-degree draft. I think I turned my resolution up. Let me see how long it's going to take. Let me answer a question here real quick. Can you do a profile cut following the web outline of the bowl and not round? You could. You could create a vector on, let's go back over to the side one here. I could take and create this vector here going around following that, web outline for sure, and do a profile cut on it. But also, like I said, on the bottom of the bowl as well too, which again, we're not getting into tonight or anything like that, but on the bottom of that bowl and on the bottom here, probably could drape over. It'd be an add, but the let me pull that up again. If you see the bottom of this bowl here, the shape of that bowl there, you know how it has that kind of, it looks like a spider web almost, just because of the grain of the wood and all. But I could have the whole bottom have that shape all the way up to the rim, with a little bit of meat for the rim. But I could have it match where it is on the spider web. So these peaks match where the peaks of the spider web would typically be. So, I mean, all kinds of things. I mean, it could, could really create and have some fun with that. And I'll probably play with it over the weekend. If I make another model with that webbed, I'll be sure to kind of record that so y'all can watch that. But also at the same time, I'll make that model available to y'all as well. And yes, you sure could. To answer your question. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that's it for tonight. We're going to call it at 2.5 hours. We're going to call it quits. And we've got the bowl created. That model created and everything. Again, it could be a lot of finesse and everything. We made a little spider. Not the greatest spider in the world, but hey, it works. I mean, it is what it is. It just adds that little extra element, and we made it ourselves from scratch, right? So just adds that little cool extra element and everything to that, and it would be a cool little candy dish for sure. But the spider web could be better and all that stuff. And again, we just went round. We just went basic, just to kind of show the concept and everything, and go from there. But oh my goodness, the things that you could do with this, you could really give it all kinds of cool shapes and stuff like that, and do all kinds of fun stuff. So I hope that you got something out of tonight. I know many of you don't have Vectric Aspire, and we're doing a lot of modeling and things like that. But the way models combine with each other, add, subtract, and things like that. The way that the tilt and fade and stuff. So there's a few little things in there, learning things, working with vectors and drawing shapes and stuff. All of that stuff plays a role, in everything. Everything plays a role, and hopefully you got something out of that. When am I inviting you over to the poker game? As soon as the poker table is built. And ladies and gentlemen, I've made a decision that I'm working on. There's a couple of people that want the plan for the poker table. I'm working on that plan, but the reason why it's taking so long is I'm actually going to build the poker table. And I'm going to film the making of it, a series. And then I'll have the files available and all that stuff, but I'm actually filming the build. And I'm hoping to start that sooner rather than later. So you can see it. It's going to be a cool project, and it's pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of complication to it. It's should be a good, fun build, an easy build, not too complicated. All right, everybody. Let's see here. Wait, John says you could glue, say, a piece of walnut on top of the maple and then carve the web so that it is dark. 100% correct. You could, what John is saying is, on your block of wood, you could have a piece of maple glued, a thin piece of maple or walnut, whatever, walnut glued to a maple block. The bowl and everything would be maple, and then the web, the darker web, would be the walnut and everything, and the spider and stuff. You don't have to have a 2.5-inch block of wood. You could glue a block of wood, just the thickness and the size of the spider, on top of a piece of wood, so that when it carves, there's wood there for it to carve away. Right? You don't have to, it doesn't have to be flat all the way across. I mean, you could add these on. So you could absolutely do, something like John Thompson is saying. You could have let's say the bowl was going to be cherry. Let's say the bowl was cherry. And then we have let's say the spider web was walnut, maybe a little darker or something. And then, or the spider web could be lighter as well too. Like, a spider web is, kind of light and all. It could have been, maybe the maple, whatever. But you could use a piece of ebony, or you could use a piece of, you could use whatever that could be the spider, right? A different color. All kinds of fun stuff. And you don't have to have a whole full panel glued across the top of that 15 by 15. You can glue the chunks of wood on where you need, and the CNC just mills those areas away, to create that whole entire carving. Yeah. Fun stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, maybe we will, October's a good way away. Maybe we'll revisit this when I have some changes and stuff. Maybe we'll revisit this and we'll talk about toolpaths and all that stuff with it. For now, we are going to leave it at what we got going on here and this bowl, and call it a day. All right, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you soon.